Hello, welcome back to another new edition of Green Terror Talk, the official podcast of McDaniel College Athletics. I'm your host, Avery Newport, here for a women's season preview for women's lacrosse. I've got three guests with me here to help me preview the women's lac season that's starting this weekend, believe it or not, pretty crazy. But head coach Kristin Ramey, leading scorer from last year, Kat Thayer, and former player turned assistant this year, Emma Legacy, are my guests here today, guys. Thanks so much for coming on to the show to preview the women's lac season.
Thanks for having us.
This is kind of crazy that we're already here in the spring season, right? I mean, it's literally 2 days away from the season opener, and there's still snow outside, like it's still cold, beginning of the season. But real quickly, just right off the bat, how excited are you guys to get underway? Finally, you've had fall ball, you've had winter ball, you've had 2 weeks of practice now at this point. Like, how is the feeling around the team? What is the vibe like as you get ready for the season in a few days?
Great. I'll start. Yeah, when everybody asks about when your season is, and like it's the spring. Well, technically, they're in the winter months, but it's a spring season. So, but we are out on the turf, rain, shine, cold, and maybe 50 degrees today. So, but we're really excited. You're right. We started in the full summer with our summer training. We had a great fall ball, and with winter training. In preparation, we are eager to finally get our first game underway on Saturday at 3 p.m.
Yeah, really is crazy because we're still, we still got basketball and wrestling and all that sort of stuff, and now spring is right here, right around the corner. So, but it's fun. I love the spring season. It's a fun time to be on the campus, and especially with lacrosse, everybody loves coming out and watching games and supporting your team. So it's a fun time of year. Mm-hmm. But I want to first talk about what this team is looking like so far. You've had a few weeks of practice now at this point. Not a ton of time, of course, because some of your non-conference teams have had more time to practice, maybe a month, but you guys have only had 2 weeks really to really see what the team is going to look like this year. So in your first 2 weeks of practice, Coach, what have you seen so far from the team? Who stood out to you in practice? What have you noticed the team's strengths and weaknesses have been for the first couple weeks of practice?
Yeah, I'll talk about just yesterday. I think the team overall is doing a great job of echoing our direction. We give them a focus, and they put it into action. So they're adjusting really well, not only in practice, so we're hoping that plays off in our first few weeks of games because we have to. Yeah, like you mentioned, Division III starts, maybe a week or 10 days earlier than us. So I'm really proud to see that. And based off of last week, finishing the week with our first scrimmage, we were fit. I was excited to see them maintain our speed of the game in the midfield on offense and defense and never let up. So I thought, we walked away knowing how fast we are and how fit we are already in just the short start of our season. Yeah,
great signs early on too because, as we all know, the Centennial is such a tough league, and especially at the top, you have so much national recognition among the best teams in this conference. Being in good shape, being fit, being ready to go right when the season starts is huge, obviously, to get that advantage. But I wanted to talk about how the team has changed from last year to this year. Of course, you lost your two leading scorers on the offensive end, on the attack. Emma, you were one of them. You were one of the leading scorers last year in the conference. Now you've moved up to be an assistant coach. Emma Miller, of course, was the leading scorer on the team last year and among the best scorers in the conference. Her goals per game average was second best in the Centennial. So you're losing that production on the offensive end, Coach Ramey. What are you doing to try and replace that production? Who's going to step up into those attack roles this season?
Yep. I think our attackers are ready. They do know what you just said, what we lost, and so they're excited. I've seen this junior, now senior class improve, and now the sophomores, now junior class, which are mostly attackers, improve even from their sophomore year to junior year. So I'm really excited to see what they're capable of doing on the offensive end together, including Kat. You mentioned that we have here today as one of our top goal scorers and point holders. I'm really looking forward to Charlotte having a even better breakout season than last year and improve on last year. Addison, Utterback, and that's Charlotte Alexander, two juniors that I know Kat and I were just talking about that we're excited to really step up this year for the team.
Yeah, Kat, since we have you here, I'll bring you into the conversation here too. You're going to take on that leading scorer role, right? You were the third leading scorer a year ago, and now you're going to be one of the top attack options this year. So how are you feeling about stepping into a bigger scoring role this year, and what is that feeling like for you? How's your progression gone from from practicing to getting ready for a game this weekend. What is that role like for you now, being one of the leading scorers on the team?
I mean, it's definitely a little nerve-wracking, but I kind of love it at the same time. I just love feeling that energy from everyone, like, hyping me up, thinking like that, and I just, like, want to take it as far as I can and keep going and up my scores from last year, up my assists, do what I can to step into that role.
Yeah, really, because the offense, of course, you got to score goals to win games. And if there's a reliable, consistent option that's at the top of your offense that can get you goals, that can get you assists, that can get you points, that really takes a lot of pressure off of everybody else, right? It opens up the offense, and you're definitely not a one-dimensional player. You can score, of course, but you can also pass the ball. And I think that really helps, too, because you're a good teammate. You give your teammates chances and positions to score. And, you can have a great goal scorer that doesn't do much else for the offense, and that doesn't really help the team very much. But when you're a good passer, when you can set up the other players on the offense for scoring opportunities, that goes a long way. In such a tough league like the Centennial, having a dual threat on the offensive end is really important. And so I think to fill those attack roles this year is going to be huge for you guys, right? Missing your two leading scorers from a year ago. Kat, you're going to be stepping into a bigger role this year. But I wanted to bring Emma into this conversation as well. Now that you're an assistant coach, you're no longer in the trenches out there playing every weekend. What has that transition been like for you? Of course, you were one of the top players for this program for a number of years, and now you've transitioned into more of a coaching role. You're behind the scenes almost. What has that been like for you coming into a new role this season, and how's that adjustment period been for you?
Definitely a big change, for sure.
Yeah.
I think just taking it day by day has definitely helped. But I'm really excited, like taking my IQ from like being on the field to now changing it to teaching and like learning for myself, and so I can teach the rest of the girls like on the field, but from the sideline, is definitely like one of my, like, I'm super excited, you know. And I think for a long time being on the field, I was just like one of those players that like people just looked up to, and was like, I didn't really do much in like the like voicing part of it, I feel like. So now that's a big change for me, but I'm excited and I'm ready, you know what I mean, to just get that different perspective, I guess, from like being on the sideline and actually like teaching the girls like from voice and like something like that.
Yeah, that's a great point that you make too, because a lot of times you lead by example, right? You just show people like, look, I'm just going to go out and score 10 points today, and that's the kind of motivation that the other players can see, and they feed off of that energy, right? And so now you can apply what you did as a player and apply it to your coaching strategy, and I think that's really valuable too, because a lot of the players that you're coaching this year, you were teammates with. You know them really well. You know their play style. You know how they like to play and what they're comfortable with. And I think you can take that knowledge and understanding of having just been on the field with them last year and applying that to your coaching strategy this year. So I think that'll definitely be a benefit for not just you as a coach, but the program as a whole too, having that same leadership. You had your second leading goal scorer from a year ago still with the program, maybe not on the field, but still involved in the program, still helping out. That's a huge advantage for you guys, I think, coming up this year. But anything else that you guys have seen from the team so far this year that you're looking forward to? We were talking to the men's team earlier on today, and they had to replace their goalkeeper from last year. But you guys are kind of in the opposite position. Your offense is really the question mark coming into this season, and your goalkeeper is pretty solid. Kaylee Core is returning again. She's a junior this year, so she's got that upperclassman experience. So the situation in net anyway is pretty much the same for you guys. Anything else that you've been seeing from the defensive side, from the goalkeeper side, anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned what we lost. I think that's it's exciting to have a clean slate. Maybe almost not a clean slate, but this kind of blank canvas for our offense to work with and set up. And so we're taking it one game at a time. Obviously, we're looking forward to being successful in conference before we lead into our heavy, very talented, challenging conference play.
Right.
But I did want to talk about our senior class. For 4 years, this class has been hardworking, hungry, and more behind the scenes because defense doesn't get a lot of that recognition, and our senior class is very defensive heavy. You mentioned Kaylee as a junior coming back as one of our consistent starters in the defensive end. But I also want to talk about, we have Sadie Bowman. We have Kay Cook in our defensive end who got plenty of minutes, starting line. And so I think with them being the backbone of our defense, with that experience, their voice, their leadership, I think that will continue to not only stop the opponent's offense, but continue to put the ball back in our offensive hands.
Yeah.
And let them shine and step up. And then we have a senior attacker, Paris Kennard, who I didn't mention in our attacking line, but she's also kind of like how she plays. She's not the most vocal out there, but she's a leader through her action and her experience as well. So I'm looking forward to her stepping up. But yeah, I can't speak enough to this senior class. They're trusting the process. They, like I said, they're one of the hardest working class over the last 4 years that I've consistently coached. And so I'm excited to see what we can produce down there.
Yeah. Great shout out too. Of course, you got to have that upperclassman leadership, right?
Mm-hmm.
In such a tough league, you have those players to rely on, those veterans who have been through the league schedule many times, and they understand what it takes to win in this league. That's really, really valuable to have that great senior class. But Coach Ramey, I wanted to build off that question. You've been here for 10 years, over 10 years now, and you've made a trip to the Centennial Conference playoffs before. What have you seen from this team that sticks out from the other teams that you've seen here in your time as head coach?
Yeah, they're relentless. We've put in some difficult practice sessions, and they've stepped up to the challenge. There's no complaining out here. They are encouraging. They're supportive, but they are relentless to, get it as close to right as possible. And so I think with that grit, that relentlessness, and stepping up to the challenges that they know that they're going to face, I'm excited to feel that energy, that they're ready.
Yeah, and you're really going to get that first test this weekend, right, against Goucher in the season opener. The non-conference schedule is a great way to just kind of see what you have, maybe do a little experimenting here and there, try and test things out on the offensive end since you are trying to replace a lot of production from last year. That's what this non-conference schedule can do, especially early on in the season. I wanted to talk about that non-conference schedule here before we get into the Centennial talk, all that sort of stuff. Who are the teams that you're most looking forward to playing in your non-conference schedule? You're starting with Goucher. You got a road trip at Randolph-Macon. You've got Hood. A lot of good teams on this non-conference schedule. So just tell me a little bit about who you're looking forward to playing in this schedule to start the year, and what some challenges they might provide your team.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that in one of our first meetings. Do you want to talk about the first couple games that you're excited to play?
Personally?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. Personally, I'm really excited for Susquehanna because that's always a challenging game in a way. It's very competitive, and they're a tough team, so it's fun to play them. I also like Hood, too. Hood's a good one. They're
That's
also
nice and close.
Yeah, true. Only 30 minutes away. Yeah, exactly.
Randolph-Macon will be nice to get back at because we played them in terrible weather at their place, and it'd be nice to play them again and really get a kick at them this time.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention the non-conference schedule too because you got a couple of uncommon teams, I guess, towards the middle part of the non-conference schedule before you get into the conference games. Illinois Wesleyan, Ohio Wesleyan, Wisconsin Eau Claire. I think it's Eau Claire, isn't it? Eau Claire.
I'm going to say yes. No,
I should know this. I should have done my research beforehand. But anyway, so you've got some Midwestern teams that are coming over here right around our spring break time. So that's certainly a change. You don't see too many programs from that area of the country coming all the way out here to play you guys. But Coach Ramey, what was the strategy behind scheduling those schools? Just to get something different, some different playing styles or something like that in our stadium here?
Yeah. Well, first, lacrosse is the fastest game out there, and it's growing. Also, schools are adding the program, not only in high school, they're adding rec leagues and club leagues, but also in the college level.
Sure.
And so it's fun to see teams these schools have lacrosse out in the, what I guess maybe us Easterns would say Midwest.
I guess it's kind of Midwest. It's like East Midwest,
yeah.
But
But west of Ohio's at Midwest.
Yeah, sure.
And so, to answer your question, spring break is a time to, in the past 3 years, this is probably the first for Kat, but we've traveled. It's a time to maybe play somewhere warmer during our break and play teams we wouldn't normally see. And so we're really doing that this year, except for the travel part. And it just worked out that, having conversation with coaches as we set our schedule, they were traveling out here. And so it really just seamlessly how it worked out like that, that they were contacting us, and we were like, yes, let's shake things up and stay home. And so before spring break, we're playing Ohio Wesleyan, and then we're playing, which one's our next game?
Wisconsin Eau Claire, I guess. I feel so
Yeah.
bad. I'm sure I'm butchering that pronunciation, but
And then finishing with Illinois Wesleyan. Is that right?
Yep.
And so so I'm excited to play teams that are different. I think our team really shines, without having that like preconceived idea of what, a team looks like. And then sometimes that's when we, I see at times we play our best.
Yeah.
So excited to play a different team from a different region, different teams from different regions, and teams we've never faced before. But it's lacrosse, and I'm excited to see how we match up against them, especially before we go into conference.
yeah, exactly.
I'm
Right before the
looking
conference
forward to
schedule.
it, and like I said, it's exciting to see lacrosse, coming to the East Coast. So we're excited to see what happens.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point that you make too, because these are Midwestern programs, and of course lacrosse is more of an East Coast sport, especially more recently it's begun to expand a little bit more, as you mentioned, but traditionally it's mostly been an East Coast sport. So to see these new programs coming in here that you've never played before, maybe they have new play styles or just they play a different way that you're not familiar with, that's a great challenge and a great way to get you ready for the gauntlet that is the Centennial Conference, right? Because you're seeing teams that are different, that you've never played before, that no one else has played over their 4-year, 3-year career here. So that's just something different. And I think that's a good way to set you up for such a tough conference schedule, which we can get into now. A little segue, transition into the conference slate. Tough league, of course. As always, you've got Gettysburg, you've got Franklin and Marshall at the top of the preseason poll. They've won every Centennial Conference championship since 2002. So it's been a long, long streak for those two programs, nationally relevant programs. What are you guys going to do this year to make a name for yourself in the Centennial Conference? How are you going to differentiate yourself from the rest of the league this year?
Yeah, we have talked about that already early in our season, and we'll talk about it again before we hit conference play. But I've seen our faces light up when we're talking about that, which I haven't seen in a while. They are hungry. They're ready to make an impact. They're ready to make it, these games, if not closer. They're ready to win these games. So we're not backing down. We're not shying away. They're accepting the challenge, and with each practice session before we get there, with each game, whether we played them before, we're excited to see them again, or our new competition. We're going to work out the kinks to make sure, our offense is ready to go. We have multiple goal scorers. Our midfield, we're fit, we're healthy, we're strong in possession and off the draw, and then our defense is rock solid before we get to that conference play. So you're asking, how are we going to ripple the waters? And it is to make these games a lot closer, that maybe we have lost by 1, 2, or 3 points in the conference,
right.
And then turning those closer games into wins.
Yeah, that's really the key, I think, is that you guys were so close in so many games last year and just couldn't quite make that final push over the edge. But now you've got that experience, you've got those games under your belt, you've been able to play in close games before. Now it's just a matter of finishing, right, and getting past that hump. Emma, I want to kind of bring you into this here, too. You were a player here, of course. You played for 4 years here. You're a coach now. How has your experience playing against Centennial teams over your playing career, how will that help you transition into a coach here? How will you give that experience of being a player to the team now that you're a coach?
That's a great question. I would say Centennial, of course, super tough, Obviously, we're losing people. They're doing the same thing. They're losing star athletes as well.
Yep.
So I think a big thing this year that we've talked about is just positivity, and I feel like in the last like few years we haven't fully had that for like the bulk of the team. So I'm really excited for that, and just keeping like a positive attitude, you know, helping them out, you know, learning wise, but also just like, you know, helping them out with like, you're doing great, and like, you know, keep it up, and this is the stuff like we need to work on and we need to do better. But yeah, just like talking about the Centennial, I don't like, it's anybody's game really, you know? So just going off that, I guess, just like keep pushing, keep like knowing like from the positive attitude that like we can do it and we can win these like tough games.
Yeah.
So the mindset part of it, I guess, is really important.
Yeah, no, I would totally agree with that too, because it really is a mental situation, right? When you think you can beat a team, you start to play better. You play a little more loose and more free, and then, you know, you start getting the bounces, right? The ball starts going your way. You get some good saves, some good defensive plays. You start scooping up some ground balls, and it just kind of begins to work for you in terms of a momentum sorts of things. So, yeah, I agree. Once you get the monkey off your back too, right? When you win that conference game, then you can win all. You can win any of them. You know, like you got to get that first one out of the way, and then as soon as that happens, sky's the limit. Really, it just kind of takes off from there. And yeah, I totally agree. The mental aspect is a much bigger part of the game than you'd think, right? Because, you know, it's not a stat that's measured. It's sort of an intangible kind of thing. But once the team sort of buys in, and once they can all see and they understand that they can win games in this league, then anything can happen at that point. So very excited to see how you guys continue to take that leap forward this year in the Centennial Conference. But I wanted to kind of end the show today on another positive note here and talk about your goals specifically for this season. We've talked about the conference schedule. We've talked about trying to replace the offensive production, how the team has changed from last year to this year. Now specifically, I want to get into goals for each of you guys up here. Coach Ramey, we'll start with you. What is one specific goal that you have for the team this year? Not just, you know, winning conference games or anything like that, making the playoffs, making the tournament, but just what do you want to see this team accomplish specifically for this season?
Yeah. Again, you know, something we'll talk about often, but I would love to see them, you know, get over that 500.
Yeah.
And I know that that's a goal for them too. You know, with keeping each individual game, you know, at the forefront, you know, taking one at a time, but talking also about finishing in the top 6.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's so exciting to be in a conference that is so difficult and competitive, and it is so much fun to be competitive, but that being top 6 is not out of reach for this team. And keep just imposing the winning mindset, like, yes, you can win this game. You know, you are talented. And I think to break that down, like offensively, we've got to be hard to scout, so we have to have multiple threats. Right? Defensively, I told you, like, I am excited about having our returning experienced defense back, but we have to continue to be rock solid in conference play, hopefully, as we are at a conference. But yeah, we've already started talking about, you know, winning more games than last year, starting with 7 if we won 6. But more importantly, like getting over that 500 and ultimately being top 6.
Yeah. Kat, we'll switch to you here. What is an individual goal that you have for yourself this year, and what's a goal that you have as a member of this team? What do you want to see the team accomplish this year?
Individually, I'm currently 40 draw controls away from getting 100. I'd love to get that this
There you
season.
go.
It's kind of my
Great
biggest
goal.
one. But of course, also increasing all of my statistics around. For the whole season, like not statistically, I want to stay positive. I want to uplift everyone, keep everyone in positive mindsets, because sometimes we tend to struggle when it gets close to conference and stuff. So I want to just keep uplifting that and keep pushing that mindset on people.
Nice. Awesome. Emma, what about you? What's a goal for you this year as a coach now? Is there anything that you want to sort of see about yourself, how you can coach, what your coaching abilities are like, anything else that you want to add in terms of having a goal for this season?
Yeah, for sure. My goal, I think a big one is just teamwork. And I think, again, in previous years, it was a lot of like individual work and like, like Kat kind of said, like the individual like statistics, and like of course we worry about those, you know, that's a big thing in our game, but again, it is a team sport.
Sure.
And I think just keeping that mindset of like, we are a team, we're working together, you can't do it on your own is a big one. So I think I'm going to keep like implementing that as a coach. Just from like my coaching standpoint, again, just like keeping, you know, it positive. Like when I can help and lead, like obviously I'm going to do that. So I'm super excited for that. Yeah, and then we'll just see how it goes. Like, again, this is, you know, me coaching for the first time. So
Yeah.
I'm excited, and I'm excited to see, like, what I can do and what I can, like, do to help the team.
Sure.
And I think a lot of these things, too, you'll really begin to find out once you play your first game, right? Because your first game is right here at home. It's against Goucher. It's against a local school that you've played a lot. So once you have that first game kind of under your belt, you get it out of the way, and you can kind of see for real what the team looks like, because you've seen them in practice for the last few weeks, and now you get to see what the team looks like in an actual game scenario with people in the stands, with parents here, with alumni here, with people cheering and supporting the team. I think that really says a lot about what the team's going to do moving forward. So a lot of those goals, you can see what the trajectory is when you get that first game out of the way, and you can kind of move forward in the season after that. But already, man, season opener is here. It's on this Saturday, just 2 days away, against Goucher here at home. Anything specifically that you're looking forward about this game and just finally getting the season underway here at this point?
Yeah, it's always fun on the hill when we have a doubleheader outside. So, and I just want to lastly shout out to our parent group and our fans. The last couple years, they have been amazing. Talk about positive, energetic, really supportive. So I just want to thank them, and I'm looking forward to that energy from the hill, feeling that, and having them out for the first game of 2025.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome, really fun, and hopefully the weather turns out pretty well, too. It's been kind of chilly the last couple of days.
Some of them might be in the cars. But they can still watch the game.
Mm-hmm.
Umbrellas, bring your parkas.
Yes.
Might be a little wet this Saturday, but we still hope that they're definitely going to make it out.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to have my black puffer jacket. You know, I'm going to be all bundled up. But I'll probably also be up here for most of the game. So I can avoid most of the weather outside. But should be fun. Really excited to get this season underway, of course. A lot of promise here for your team, for the men's team, for the spring sports in general, really, but especially for you guys, too. A lot of production that you've got to replace this year, so there are some question marks to start the season, but really cool just to see how that develops and progresses over the course of the year. You've got a challenging non-conference schedule, so I think that'll really set you up well for conference play. A couple of new teams here, too, that we talked about, these Midwestern teams that you haven't played before. A lot of question marks for them, but I think once you get those games through and you see what the team has, that'll answer a lot of questions about where this team is going for conference play. And again, the conference, you got the top two at the top, of course. You've got Gettysburg and F&M, but everything else is pretty much wide open after that. I think you guys can really assert yourselves in that range in the conference and see what you got. So I'm very excited to see how the team continues to grow this year. 6 wins a year ago. 7+, very realistic, I think, especially when you've got a returning goalkeeper. You've got some solid returning offensive players as well, Kat being one of them on the attack. A lot of positive things to look forward to this year for the women's lacrosse program on the Hill. But that's going to wrap up our season preview episode. Guys, thanks so much for coming on, and best of luck as the season gets underway.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Coach Kristin Ramey, Kat Thayer, and Emma Legacy are my guests here today on our season preview episode for the women's lacrosse team in 2025 for Green Terror Talk, the official podcast of McDaniel College Athletics. I'm Avery Newport saying so long. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode, and we'll see you for Women's Lac season in just a few days. Take care. We'll see you again soon.